Yeah, sure, why not? All right, shkayach. All right, good morning, everybody. Thank you, Dr. Reese, for filling in yesterday. Wasn't feeling well all day Sunday. I wasn't sure I was going to feel in the mornings. I bumped into him at Mincha Marav, so he generously offered. All right, Tanur Rabbanan, top word, top line, right? Kuf Vav Amud Aleph, 106A1. Tanur Rabbanan, Chalitza Mutas Ksheira. So a chalitza, right, which is mistaken, right, is ksheira. We'll soon see there's ezi chalitza mutas. What does this mean? This is chalitza mutas. So basically, she wants to do chalitza, and they tell the guy, the yavam, she's not really interested in him. Oh, you do chalitza? That's how you marry her. So he goes, oh, okay, great, sign me up. Okay, so they do chalitza, perform the ceremony. And then turns out, okay, just a chalitza, by the way, now she's good to marry anybody else. So Rabbi Yechanan. So it says Rabbi Yechanan, and he's showing, what are you talking about? I have learned, whether that, thank you, sir, whether that he had intentions and she did not, or or she had intention to do chalitza, but he didn't. Chalitza is psula. The chalitza is psula ad she's chavnu shem gechad, until both of them have kavanah, say this is the mitzvah of chalitza, in order that she should be able to go ahead and marry whoever she wants. And you say over here when you're tricking this guy, right? This poor yavam, right? His heart's broken, right? You're gonna tell me that he thinks he's doing the chalitza to marry her, and that it's kshera. What does that mean? Zeus. Basically, what it is okay, you go ahead and do chalitza, and then we'll pay you $200. So he goes, okay, fine. So he's intending to do chalitza, and she's intending to do chalitza. So that the chalitza works, even though she won't go ahead and pay him the $200 afterwards. Nevertheless, the chalitza is chal. And Tanamach is similar. We learned the chalitza mutaz kshera. Chalitza is mistake. Chalitza is kshera. Says the chalitza mutaz kol sham chalitza manas shetin the chamatayim zeus. Right, and one where they said, "Hey, go ahead and do it. Go get $200, right, in order to do the chalitza." So whether or not the $200 is paid, it doesn't make a difference. The chalitza is valid. One time there's a ma'isa with a yavam that fell before, right, a yavama that it wasn't fit for her. Go ahead and do chalitza to her in order that she'll give you $200. And there was the mice came for Rebbe Chia, and he was machshir her, i.e., he said the chalitza was valid, and she can go ahead and marry whoever she wants. How Isasa, excuse me, how the also the coming to Rebbe Chia Bar Abba. There was a person who came before Rebbe Chia Bar Abba, so Amar La. So I guess he wanted to do Yibum. So he brought he brought his sister-in-law, so Amar La. So he told her, Biti, Amadi, stand up, so Amar Le. Ema, so the mother said, Shivasa Zohi Amidasa, right? Her sitting is her standing. This is how she's going to be. Basically, she's not so interested in this her brother-in-law. Right, he wanted the Yibum, and she was not so interested in the Yam. So she was like still sitting there. So Amar La, Yidatle, you know him? So Amar La, yeah, I know. And what else about it? She said, right? The cover lemiklamina, right? So it says she said, I guess about her daughter. Yeah, he sees that her money, she's got some money in savings, I guess, of her father, and he wants to go ahead and basically just marry her for her money. He's a bad guy. Samar la lanichalacha. So he said to the girl, to the Yavama, she said, Samar lay. So we are in the middle of Kuf Vav Amud Aleph, maybe 40% down.
Thank you.
Kuf Vav Amud Aleph. So he said to her, he said to her, you don't want to do Yibum with your brother-in-law? Amar lei lo. She said no. So Amar lei chalutzla ubekach ata kainsa. So he told her with this guy, right, the brother-in-law, right, he basically wanted to just do Yibum to get her money. He said, do chalitza, and this way you'll be married to her. So the bus, so he said, okay, sure. The bus is the chalitza. He did chalitza. So Amar lei. So he said back to him, hashta minach apsilacha. Even though this is not a valid chalitza, but it's enough chalitza that is valid enough to ask you to do yibum. Because once you don't do yibum, then you can't do it anymore, right? So therefore, you lost your opportunity to do yibum. So now you can't marry her. Sorry. So even the trick doesn't work to make her be able to marry somebody else. But he paskin, right? That
so she's still not muteris.
She's not muteris l'shuk. But because we said before, if he's thinking he doesn't have kavanah for it, so it's valid enough to passel her from him or the brothers. But it's not valid enough for her that her zika is completely gone. So he says, okay, now you can't marry her. You got to do chalitza. So go ahead and do a valid chalitza. In order that she should go ahead and be much of the shuk. So and there another ma'aseh. So the daughter of the father-in-law, basically the sister-in-law of the Rav Papa, fell before her yavam. Right, her husband died, and there was a yavam, not Rav Papa. She'ein hagula, that was not fit for her. So came before Abai. So Amar Le, go ahead and do chalitza. And with this, you'll be married to her. Sort of the same sort of statement that we just had in the previous ma'aseh. So Amar Le Rav Papa was standing there, right, concerned with his father-in-law's daughter, right? I assume also his sister-in-law. But what do you mean? Rabbi Yochanan said before that if the guy thinks that the chalitza is just is the way to marry her, that is completely not valid at all. So why are you telling him to do this type of chalitza? It's not going to be valid. So what should I tell him? No, this is what you should do. Right? Go tell him, okay, go ahead and do chalitza, then she'll pay you 200 zuz, a large amount of money, and the boss of the chalitza, and after it does chalitza, so okay, fine, good eitzah. So he went back and did the eitzah. He learned from Rav Papa. Now zeal havle. Now go ahead and pay the guy his 200 zuz. Samarlei, Rav Papa, gave a shaking my head emoji. He says, no, what are you talking about? Amarlei, the shatani b'cha of delay. She did something, right, which is under the category of basically mashata. Like I was just telling you what you wanted to hear. What do you mean? Milo Tani, when I learned Brisa, Hareshaya Barechem Beis Yisurim, a person was fleeing from the Beis Yisurim. He was trying to get away from those who held him captive. There was a bridge before. Barmalei told, and he says the guy will do anything to get across the bridge. So he says, told Dina Vahavirani. So he says, okay, you want me to take you across the bridge? Pay me $1,000. Pay me a dinar, a very large amount of money. Normally costs, a $2 toll. He says, give me $1,000. Person says, okay, I'll pay $1,000. Just give me a cross. Ein lo elo scharo. The halacha is there wasn't an agreement to go ahead and pay $1,000 because that was the situation. So that's a case of mashatani b'cha, right? I'm just saying it. I'm sort of fooling you, right? I'm lying to you, or just saying it in order to just do it right now. But you only owe the market. The toll is $2. You pay $2, not $1,000. So to over here, right? So over there you see that the halakha is b'shatani b'cha. So hakanami b'shatani b'cha. So to over here, she didn't really agree to pay him $200 to do chalitza. You know what the going price to do chalitza is? Zero. So you don't have to do anything. So therefore, you're not obligated. So now Abaye basically twice corrected by Rav Papa. So Amarle Avucha Heicha says, where's your father? And he says, you know what? It seems to me you have too much time to learn. You know all these brises, right? You know all these limudim. You don't really have to seem to support yourself. So where's your father? Amalei b'masa, he's here in the city, right? Supporting you. Imcha Eicho is your mother. Amalei b'masa, also in the city. So Yaib ba'enei v'shchivam, right? And so he doesn't mean he cursed, Rav Papa's parents, but basically they soon after they were nifter, and I guess Rav Papa had to start supporting themselves and not, wasn't ahead of the bayit. Right? Two dots. Tanya Rabbanan chalitza mutas ksheira. So a chalitza mutas.
That's this whole story. I mean,
yeah,
he's jealous of him somehow that he had parents in the city.
So it was brought down that Abaye from it. Abaye also he grew up as Abaye grew up as an orphan.
I know that he died young. He's from Elia Cohen. I know, but nonetheless.
Chalitza mutas ksheira. So we said earlier, chalitza mutas, right? A mistaken type of chalitza, and we defined it earlier as basically, telling them, "Al tanai, I'll give you $200," and even if you don't give the $200 to the chalitza. However, get muta puzzle, but a get which is given on tanai, right? That is puzzle, right? If you say, okay, you go to this place, so you put a stipulation is not fulfilled, the get does not work. Chalitza ma'ushi is psula. a forced chalitza is possible. Again, Moshe kosher. Again, Moshe is kosher. So Gemara says, "Hey, what do you mean the force?" If he says, "I want to do it afilu chalitza nami," then the chalitza is also good. If he doesn't say, then get nami lo. So the get is also not valid. So haki comes means to say chalitza motas li olam kosher. A mistaken get, one that's out tonight, that tonight is not fulfilled, is always good. The get motas li olam pasul, the get which is mistaken is always possible, right? The reason over there is basically that the chalitza cannot be done aydei shaliach. And therefore, a tanai would not work, but a get which can be given aydei shaliach. So therefore, it does work with conditions. Now, chalitza mushas, the get mushas, zimnin kasher v'zimnin pasul. So that's with a stipulation that chalitza is always valid no matter what, and the get the tanai needs to be fulfilled. When it comes to being forced, sometimes the get and the chalitza are good, sometimes the get and the chalitza are bad. So one is where he says, I want to do it, and therefore the chalitza is valid and the get is valid. And the other time is not. In other words, if the guy doesn't say Reitzani, I want to give it, then the chalitza is not good, and neither is the get. So really, it's the same that applies to those two. The title of the Brisa, Yakriv Oiso. It says the person has to be a chatas. So Yakriv Oiso, he brings malamish and kaifin oso. Right, we see that we can force a person to bring his korban chatas. Yachol bal karcha, you might think completely against his will. Tamalei mer l'ritzaino. Right, therefore it says l'ritzaino has to be from his will. Okay, it's not how is that kaifin oso? Ad shiyama reitzani. We force him until he says, okay, I want to go ahead and bring this korban. So do we find this by Giti Nashim? Guy says, I don't want to give a get. He says, you got to give a get. She's naguna, whatever it is. So you can force him, right? A little bit of waterboarding until he says, okay, Roitzani, and then he has to go ahead and then it's valid. Amar Rabba, Amar Rav Schar, Amar Rav Huna. Chodsin afal pi shein makir. So witnesses can go ahead and see a chalitza, even though they don't recognize the people, they don't know the people. Memayin and also miyun, right? They can witness and miyun, right? The woman or the girl, right, that refuses the marriage that she was placed in. You don't, even though they don't recognize it. Therefore, ein kaisen get chalitza. Ella im kain makir and vein kaisen get miyun ella im kain makir. So, however, the witnesses can't write a document that says we witnessed Janet get chalitza. Why? Because they're not sure if this person is Janet. Since they don't really have to know if this is Janet or not, people come forward and says, hey, can you witness our chalitza? We need two witnesses. Just come in here and, pull two guys out. Just witness us to chalitza. Okay, they witness it. But you can't write a document that says, hey, Janet got chalitza, because perhaps this is not Janet. And somebody else was Janet, and they're going to bring the document to Beis Din, and Beis Din will make a mistake and say, oh, the other Janet got chalitza, and she can go ahead and remarry somebody else. So therefore, they don't write a document. Ella in Kema, as he says, Ella in Kema Kirvein, place in Kema, Ella in Kema Kirvein. The Chayshin on the Beis Din tonight, because we're concerned that Beis Din will make a mistake of ruling upon this shtar because the witnesses didn't recognize people. The Rava Dideo, my Rava himself says, "Ein chotzen elim kein makira." No, you can't do the chalitza. You can't witness the chalitza only if you recognize the two parties involved. That she is legit fell to chalitza, or it's fell to yibum to this guy who's her brother-in-law. And also you don't do miyun only if you recognize both parties. Therefore, since they recognize that kaisvin get chalitza, they can go ahead and write the shtar that says we witnessed these two do chalitza. And even though that the Beis Din doesn't know that, so therefore, even though the Beis doesn't know that, they can go ahead and bring it to Beis Din, because then Beis Din can always find these witnesses, and the witnesses say, "Yeah, we were the ones who wrote it because we recognize the people." The Kais would get miyun, so do, but they can regularly get miyun. Even though that the Beis Din doesn't recognize them, we're not worried about the Beis Din making a mistake, because the witnesses who signed it, they were the ones who recognized and will be able to testify once again that miyun or chalitza was properly performed. Fine. Naya Mishnah.
Naya Mishnah.
So now,
And turn the page.
and turn the page, right? And turn the page. He's going to get triple whammy when Mayor turns the page. Kuf vav on the base. Fine. Yeah. So the Mishnah says. So the Mishnah says. Now, actually, those who notice, I pulled out a chumash in the middle of the in the middle of davening, right? So there's this small parsha by Chalitza, basically in the Dvarim Chafei. So says the Mishnah. Let's go to the Mishnah. Mitzvah Chalitza bohu v'yavimto lebezdin. So how does this Chalitza go about? So him and his sister-in-law, the one who's widowed by her husband, right, without children. So they come to Bezdin. And Bezdin gives advice, which is proper, fit for them, right? They're not fit for one another by age or other factors. The pasuk says, and they speak to them. The Zikna Ir, they basically give them advice as to whether they should yibum or do chalitza. And then she says, so now this is me from the pasuk. So the pasuk says, Me'ein yavami lahakim la'achiv shem b'Yisrael. Right? My Yavam refuses to go ahead and to further the name, to bring about his brother's name in Yisrael. Lo Abba Yavami, right? He doesn't want to go ahead and do Yibam, right? So that's the pasuk. That's the entire pasuk there. So she says this pasuk, right? Because the pasuk over there says, right? And she says, right? So she says this whole line. So this is from the Torah. Then he responds, Lo chafatzi lekachta, right? Which is also said over here in the pasuk, right? V'omer, and he says, I don't want to, I don't desire to take her. And they would say, so then, over there was also further the pasuk that says she should go before him in front of the Zakanim. Right? Remove his shoe from his foot, and spit before him. So therefore the spit has to be seen by the judges. So in other words, so she says the statement, he says, right? She says he doesn't want to take me. He says, confirms, I don't want to take her, right? Then she removes the shoe, then she spits before them. Then she says again, this is what is done to a person who does not want to build the house of his brother. So ad kana yumakrin. Over here they read. That was the part they read. Rabbi Hyrcanus, however, and Hyrcanus was dealing with these matters. So over there, I guess when he was teaching over there, right by the trees in Kfar Itam, the Gama is called Parsha, right? He would finish off the entire Parsha by the next pasuk, right? Because the pasuk says, "V'nisha even the love as it came chasan alam miyav ragel b'Yaakov b'fanav v'ansa Brahma." She said, "Kachi yasel isha shir lo yivna beis achiv," and then you go on, right? V'nikra shmo b'Yisrael beis cholutz hanal, which is the next pasuk. That's pasuk Yud. So he would read the entire parsha. V'nikra shmo b'Yisrael beis cholutz hanal. Fine. So mitzvah b'dayanim v'lei mitzvah b'tamidim. And this last part for them to go ahead and say was only by the mitzvah of the judges to say, but not the mitzvah of the tamidim or those who are around. And Rabbi Yehuda Omer, we saw this earlier, mitzvah kol ha'imdim sham leimar cholutz hanal. Right, the mitzvah is upon all those, not just the beis din or presiding of the cases, but even those who are around and witnessing. They say cholutz hanal. Fine. Zok the Gemara. Amar Rav Yehuda mitzvah chalitza. The mitzvah chalitza is kaira, the kaire, the chalatzes, the reika, the kaira. The mitzvah of chalitza is that she reads. Actually, she says, right? She reads, right? She states. He states. She removes the shoe. She spits, and then she states again. So my kamashlam. That's our mission. What are you talking about? Kamashlam mitzvah. No, this is the mitzvah of the but if it's mixed around or something, then we're not concerned, right? So time Malchus learn bein sheikdim chalitza lerakika, bein sheikdim rakika lechalitza. Whether the spit came for the removing the shoe or whether the removal of the shoe came first, which is the proper way, or that she even spit before chalitza mashas. Also, what she was done is done and it's valid. And Amar Abai Haiman Demike get chalitza. Guy who's reading get the chalitza and writing loy likre ledide lo lechude, right? You should be careful not to say lo lechude, va'ava yivami lechude, right? And also my yavam refuses, right? So in other words, if you look at the words, right? So the end of the pasuk says, right? She says, so she says, lo ava yivami, right? my yavam doesn't want to take me, right? But if you split up the words, lo, no, Avi Yavami, my yavam wants to take me. It sounds like he's saying, no, I want to take you for yibum and not chalitza. So you got to be careful not to, right. So in other words, you got to, the punctuation is very important. Read it together. In other words, you have to read the words lo Avi Yavami and the Damashma Avi Yavami. So in other words, that would sound like he wants to take him. Lo Avi Yavami, read it all together. Also, lo likri l'didei. Also for him when he's saying it lo l'chudei, he shouldn't do lo l'chudei in chafasti l'chudei, right? And I want, and that was the mashma chafati l'kachta, because if you separate the lo, right, because the pasuk over there says lo chafati l'kachta, I don't desire to take her, right? But if you break up the lo, right, you say no chafati l'kachta, right? No, I want to take her. That sounds like no, he doesn't want to do chalitza. So you got to be careful. Rather say it all together. And Rav Amar Psuke Milsahi, no, since it's it's the pasuk already together, therefore it's like it's already considered to be all together. We're not concerned if there's a pause or delay between the two; it all goes together. Rav Ashi Rav Kahana he found that he was like troubled, right? He was trying to say it in one breath, right? He couldn't. I guess he was an older age, whatever it was. He couldn't say it all together. He was struggling to make sure to say it all together. Lo avi yavami. You don't. Didn't Rava teach that? Really, we're not concerned if it doesn't all go together because it's one statement in the pasuk. No, the other parts of Chavatzi, he said, but when it comes to this line, that when she's describing her Yavam, he doesn't want to take me, that really should be, said all together. And Amar Abai Haiman, the Kasev, Gita, the Lichatza, the Chalitza, the Chitzasa, one who is writing a get of Chalitza, Lichtav Hachi, he should write exactly like this. Akrina Ledide, right? Ledida, right? That she says mean from Mein Yavami ad Avi Yavami. In other words, you write those words, right? It's like you see, like you don't write the entire pasuk. You write from the beginning, right? So you write from the beginning of Mein Yavami ad Avi Yavami until there. In other words, you write that, but you don't write the entire pasuk. You don't write all the words all together on parchment. Why is that? Because we know that if the Torah or Tanakh is supposed to be or Torah is written upon parchment, right, with sirtut, right, with the different scratches in the proper way, and therefore, since this wasn't given to write over, therefore you don't write it all together. So you sort of shorten the pasuk by saying ad, okay, and similarly. The akrino ledide, and we say to him, mean
supposed to write
ad
a document.
Yes, for them to read off. Right,
this?
right, yeah. And then for them to like read off of, like their script. The akrino ledide. Then from him also we write mean lo, right, from the word. It's only 3 words. Lo ad lakachta. Right, basically, right, instead of writing lo chavasi lakachta, they write lo ad lakachta. Right, those right together. At the end, mean kacha, and at the end, when she says her next, her next line, right, is kacha viad chalut hanal, right? This is on the word kacha until a couple words later, right? Kacha yasad ish asher lo even as based on v'nika shema b'Yisrael based chalut hanal, which is the end of the pasuk, the next pasuk.
They're only writing a fragment.
Right. They don't want to write out together because you should write psukim on parchment unless you're doing it with sirtut, unless it was given to write. However, we'll soon see.
Fix that, just make it see that.
So Marzucha Masarte because of the Kule Parsha. So he did sirtut the entire parsha. In other words, he said, right. So so there's only certain things that are supposed to be written, right? I shouldn't write a parsha, right? By in Gittin, it discusses over there, right? You don't write a Megillah for a Tinok and other things. If it's not supposed to be written b'sirtut. So also over here, you should write b'sirtut. So, however, like Marzucha, that this can be, you can write the entire psukim, and you can write it with sirtut. And Amar Abaye says Abaye Rakabakalta Ruach. If she goes and spits in the wind takes the loss of Lake Klum because it didn't reach him. She didn't do anything. It's not valid. My time. Therefore, his she has to spit before him, and she did not because the wind took it away. Hilkach. Therefore, who aruch gutsa? If he's tall and she's short, so anything below him is considered befanav. So she's short. So calls a ruach. He can befanav. Even the wind blows it away. So the moment it left her mouth, it was below him, and therefore it's considered befanav. However, he aruchavu goats. But if she is much taller and he's shorter, and she spits down towards him, but the wind takes it, binan ad demati lahadi bape bahadir v'yamsa. Therefore, you need it until it reaches his face, and therefore she has to go back and spit once again. Amar Rava. Rava says achlu tuma raksa. If she goes ahead and eats shum garlic, right, and she spits, basically spitting from the garlic. Or achla gargishta, or a certain type of clay, disgusting, right? And she spits lo asav like klum. That's not considered to be spitting. My time. V'yarka mi'atzma has to be spitting from yourself and not basically caused by your food. Being unvelek. You don't have that here. V'yama Rava tzricha daini l'michze roke. You also have to see the spit. Kinapik mepume v'yavama dechsiv le'enei zaken v'yarka. You have to see it because the pasuk says when it in front of the eyes of the zaken. And then we said at the end of the Mishnah, "V'nikra Shmuel Yisrael based Chalutz Hanal," and then they all pronounce that he is based Chalutz Hanal. So mitzvah by the Yanav Lo B'Tamidim. The mitzvah is by the judges who are there and not the Talmidim who are sitting around them. And Tyler and the Bryce was earlier. Amar Rav Yehuda Pamachas Hayinu Yoshim Lifnei Rabbi Tarfon. One time we stood in front of Rabbi Tarfon. Basu Yivama Lichlutz, and the Yivama came right with the Yavim to do Chalitza. Vamarlano, he told us not only the judges. Anu kulchem chalutz hanal, chalutz hanal, chalutz hanal. All of you pronounce with us, with the judges, chalutz hanal 3 times. In order, now he yelled that all the Talmidim should also go pronounce it. So hajala mitzvahs chalitza.